Hello there, and welcome to the scruffy-looking Nerd Herders podcast. I am your host, Tyler, bringing you news on all things nerd and geek-related. This week's episode, I'm bringing you some Activision Blizzard news, some Star Wars news, some Apex Legends news, and more. So, here we go. First things first, a little housekeeping for you, and I hate doing this because it's the first time I've ever done a housekeeping thing, but I want to keep you updated on what I'm doing with the show. I will be at VisionCon in Springfield, Missouri, May 10th and 11th, covering the convention, interviewing some comic artists, vendors, and possibly guests. Some guests this year are Jewel State, which you may know her as Kaylee from Firefly in her role in Stargate Atlantis and the like, and Samantha Eno Hart, who has done a tremendously large catalog of voice acting. You've probably watched something that she's voiced in or played something she's voiced in. So, yeah, there's tons of guests, cosplayers, the whole nine yards. And I look forward to seeing some of you guys there. If you will be there, let me know. So, first things up in comic book news. Number one, Marvel Comics has had a lot of practice with setting up interconnected universes. And that includes a little off-the-wall inclusions, and so last year Marvel was able to reacquire the rights to Conan the Barbarian comics, and this year will kick off two new series with the character involved. Savage Sword of Conan issue 1 actually hit stores this week, but it was announced today that he will be a member of a new Savage Avengers series fighting alongside Wolverine, Venom, Punisher, Elektra, and Brother Voodoo. The series will be written by Jerry Dugan, who is also writing Savage Sword of Conan, and hence that there will be some intergroup brooding competitions between Wolverine and Conan, as the two will probably clash almost immediately. I personally think this is a fantastic way to jumpstart the character back and having his fantasy mindset of Conan, where he sees things, he sees people who have superpowers, they're mages or wizards or genies, and in this superhero realm will be about I think it will bring out some really great storytelling moments. But Dugan noted potential skeptics, to which he responded, "To these people I say, just give us one issue and we will convert you." He then added, "You will convert to Crom." Savage Avengers issue 1 will go on sale soon. And the other thing in comic book news, so back in October, a new Dungeons & Dragons comic was announced through IDW Publishing, and I've been a huge fan of both people involved for some time. The synopsis of the comic is as follows. When war threatens the Moonshae Isles, legendary heroes return to defeat the forces of an unthinkable foe. The Forgotten Realms are changed forever as young wizard Helen and her friends grow from raw recruits on the streets of Mintarn into powerful warriors. Now, the creators is writer B. Dave Walters, who is, if you're familiar with Stream of Many Eyes, with Geek and Sundry stuff, The Rundown, and Tess Fowler, who was involved with Kid Lobotomy, Rat Queen. I don't know if you're familiar with those comics, but they're phenomenal. The art is great. She's a tremendous artist, and I've been following her stuff for a while. But they joined forces to bring you an all-new D&D adventure of a grand scale. And I've already added this comic to my personal pull list because I want to support two incredibly talented creators, but also because I want to support new Dungeons & Dragons comics. I highly recommend you guys going to Comixology or your local comic store and pre-ordering this as well. If you're a fan of comics, if you're a fan of fantasy stuff, Dungeons & Dragons, hell, even Game of Thrones, put this on your pull list and support these guys, because I would love to see this series last a hell of a long time. But issue 1 will be in shops March 6, 2019, if you just want to wait and hope and pray that your local comic store gets this instead of just pre-ordering it like you should. Moving on to tabletop news, the only thing that I have in news for this today, at the New York Toy Fair this year, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast unveiled something that we should have eventually seen coming, a Stranger Things themed Dungeons & Dragons starter set. Oh my gosh, it just makes sense, and I'm surprised it took them this long to do it. According to the description, the starter set allows players to, quote, experience the D&D adventure Stranger Things character Mike Wheeler created for his friends. It includes 5 Stranger Things character sheets that are based on classes used in the show, like Will the Wise and Dustin the Dwarf. It also includes 2 exclusive Demogorgon figures, one of which players can paint and customize. You can pre-order a copy of the set on Amazon or Entertainment Earth for only $24.99. Oh my god. It releases on May 1st of this year in 2019. And here's some of the things it includes. Stranger Things themed Dungeons & Dragons embark on an exciting Dungeons & Dragons adventure hunt for the Tessel Hydra, created by the character Mike from the Netflix original series Stranger Things. It's a great game for new Dungeons & Dragons players, whether players are new to D&D or looking for a new adventure. The Stranger Things themed role-playing game includes everything a group needs to play. It has the detailed rules, adventure book, and game dice. The exciting adventure book and colorful rule book contain tons of information on how to play the game, strategy, tips, yada yada yada. And it has the character sheets from Stranger Things. And this looks so rad. And like I said, I'm surprised it took them this long with the popularity of Stranger Things, with the influx of the popularity of D&D, especially with 5th edition, and now people are branching out with Pathfinder, Starfinder, Blade in the Dark, even, Dragon World. Like all these RPGs are becoming popular now, and more people are playing it. This looks like it will go pretty fast. So once again, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, if this is something that's literally meant for people like you, people like me, this is something that will fly off the shelves. So if this is something you want, you need to go and pre-order it, like I said, Amazon or on Entertainment Earth. It's only $25, so you should do it. And moving on to gaming news. First up on the weekly gaming report is something that was rather big in the gaming industry. Activision Blizzard lays off hundreds of employees. Now this comes from Jason Schreier from Kotaku. Publisher Activision Blizzard has begun its long-rumored layoff process, informing employees this afternoon that it will be cutting staff. On an earnings call this afternoon, the company said that it would be eliminating 8% of its staff. In 2018, Activision Blizzard had roughly 9,600 employees, which would mean that nearly 800 people are now out of work. This afternoon, the mega publisher began notifying those who are being laid off across its various organizations, which include Activision Blizzard and King. On the earnings call, CEO Bobby Kotick told investors that the company had, quote, once again achieved record results in 2018, but that the company would be consolidating and restructuring because of missed expectations for 2018 and lowered expectations for 2019. The company said it would be cutting mainly non-game development departments and bolstering its development staff for franchises like Call of Duty and Diablo. Jason did do a follow-up article chronicling the fallout in the aftermath of the layoffs, and it goes as follows. As Kotick and other executives were telling investors that the next Call of Duty was shaping up to be the best one yet, employees across Activision Blizzard's various divisions nervously sat at their desks, waiting to see who would be the next to get the severance envelope. And Blizzard's publishing department management had booked a series of meetings from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., but on the calendar they were all blank, and everyone knew what that meant. The look on people's faces as they're pulling in through the campus gates is just awful, said another Blizzard employee. This is the effing worst. Over the past week, I've talked to around 20 people who were laid off or close to those being laid off, as well as others with knowledge as to what's happening at Activision Blizzard. If there's a consensus, it's rage. Rage at Kotick's comments, at the way Activision executives seemingly view their employees as numbers on a spreadsheet. At the callousness in which this layoff was handled, there's rage at who was chosen to be laid off. 2 people told me that it felt like a random, haphazard practice. And rage that some important employees were let go. Some who had been laid off told me that they had felt safe, expecting their studios or departments to not be affected. Even those who felt layoffs were absolutely necessary, or even justifiable, said that they were shocked by the scale, the scope, and the coldness from executives. And he goes on to say at one Blizzard employee told me that they'd see job networking websites like LinkedIn open on computer screens as they walked around the office over the last couple weeks. Some outside of Blizzard at Activision's various development studios thought they were safe, but on Tuesday and Wednesday reached out to let them know that they or their colleagues had been unexpectedly laid off. For decades, Activision's philosophy has revolved around annualized releases, most notably with the gargantuan Call of Duty series, which hasn't skipped a year since 2004. That sort of schedule is diametrically opposed to Blizzard's release it when it's ready philosophy, which has led to massively successful games like Overwatch and Hearthstone, but has led to periods like the present in which Blizzard has gone 3 years without releasing a major game. This year will likely also be a slow one for Blizzard as the company implements its new strategy across franchises like Diablo, Warcraft, and Overwatch, all of which who have new games in development, many for smartphones. Then we'll likely see more new Blizzard games come out more regularly than ever before, and we'll have to wait and see if they live up to the quality bar Blizzard has set for itself over the past 3 decades. And so, for me, this is just really messed up that Kotick started off the meeting with of how great of a year they've had, like a record year even. Then for the employees who are either already packing up their cubicle or not even knowing what their job status will be, for them to hear Kotick smugly and cold-heartedly say to investors that, well, we wanted to make $3 billion, but we only took home $2 billion, so we're going to have to make cuts while we give our CFO $15 million in bonuses. I can't even imagine how gutted someone would feel hearing that. Like, I've personally been laid off before, and it was one of those, like, I felt secure in my job, and it was like going through, like, loved ones were in the hospital, and so I was like in and out of work, and I got let go, which, whatever, it's in the past. So I understand, like, that gutting feeling of being let go unexpectedly when you feel like you're secure in your job and like you'll be okay. Like, oh, I got important life stuff that I got to take care of, like family members almost dying, loved ones almost dying in the hospital. I need to go be with them. I don't need to be at work. I understand that. So, but also from a business perspective, I get it. But from a human perspective, 800 people are now unsure of their future. Like, they have no job. Some of these people who have even been with the company for over 15 years, because these layoffs were at complete random. They were on random. Like I don't. It's so frustrating, and it's just beyond sad. I don't. There's no words to express truly how sad this is. And it was nice to see, though, game studios, animation studios, and tabletop game studios, even Vulpin Props, shout out to that guy too, reaching out on Twitter with the developers jobs hashtag to help those affected to find jobs, which is what we saw from whenever there were all the layoffs with Telltale Games. It was the same thing. There was the developer jobs hashtag, people trying to help each other out, get them game development jobs, something, and just trying to support one another. And I love that. I think that's great. And I will end the story with this. Back in 2011, the Nintendo 3DS had extremely poor sales. It was way lower than Nintendo's projections. And in response to those poor sales, Nintendo slashed the price of the 3DS in half, and the president and board of directors all took pay cuts. 50% pay cuts, so they wouldn't have to let any of their employees go, because they knew that if they cut their own salaries, it would ignite their own passion to work harder to bring Nintendo back to the forefront of gaming. And they knew that no creative person working on video games would be able to create enjoyable ones if they were worried about the security of their job. Follow in suit with what they've done within the game industry, because look at the Nintendo Switch. It paid off. I think it worked. And in my opinion, that shows true leadership. That is what it looks like when businessmen have honor and integrity, and I have the highest respect for all of them that made those decisions at Nintendo. So kudos to them. Follow suit with that. Next up on the gaming report, Mass Effect will continue. In a studio profile on Polygon, Anthem's executive producer Mike Dara and general manager Casey Hudson suggest that BioWare still has faith in the Mass Effect series after Andromeda underwhelmed the fans in 2017. We're definitely not done with Mass Effect, says Dara. There's a lot of stories to be told. We could pull on the threads we put down in Andromeda. We could pull on threads from Mass Effect 3. There's a lot of interesting space to be explored. In my mind, it's very much alive, says Hudson. I'm thinking all the time about things that I think will be great. It's just a matter of getting back to it as soon as we can. This is great news to any and all Mass Effect fans out there. I'm personally a huge fan and I am stoked that their passion for this franchise is still alive. I'm weary about Anthem because and I know that releases, but like soon, today even, and I'm worried about it because I feel like there might have been some misinformation given out about the game's economy, but we'll see. I'm holding out faith and I'm holding out hope that it succeeds. I want it to succeed because I want to see more stuff from BioWare, more Mass Effect, more Dragon Age, some new IPs. I'm hoping that Anthem is a success and that EA has learned from their mistakes, from botching almost every game release in the last like 5 years other than like Apex Legends. So fingers crossed for Anthem because I want to see Mass Effect again under BioWare. Next up, Apex Legends hits 25 million players. That is insane. This report comes from Tech Radar. There seems to be no stopping Apex Legends, hitting fresh highs following its debut, and the latest revelation is that the game has reached 25 million players in its first week, and last weekend it exceeded 2 million concurrent players. The 25 million milestone was shared by the game's official Twitter account, complete with the comment that the success of the past week has been beyond Respawn and EA's wildest imagination. I think this is great because I feel like Respawn has been putting out great games, and to see them finally get what I feel like they deserve, props to Respawn. I think that this is going to continue to dominate for a lot longer. It's something new, it's something refreshing. Fortnite has gotten stale. I know Battle Royale games are the thing right now, but they're definitely meant for streamers and people who watch streamers. And those streamers are probably bored as hell of playing nothing but Fortnite. I know I would be. So to have something new and refreshing for them and for gamers in general, I think is great. But Apex Legends has also been under some, I don't even want to call it controversy, but discussions on its side already, as they announced some of the characters from the multiplayer are indeed from the LGBTQ plus community. And this has caused some to say that it's just them attempting to pander to that community or to be, quote, woke. And I think if it is truly pandering, it's pandering to a more inclusive future. These things are important. They may not be important to you, but there are kids, there's teens, and some adults even that will see themselves in a character and feel that it's relatable. Furthermore, if you have a problem with this, then these characters weren't meant for you. I guess that's the entire takeaway, really, is that not every character is going to be a straight white male. It's 2019. The mindset that these things shouldn't be in video games is absurd. There are LGBTQ plus people everywhere, and they're just like us. That's what's genius about them coming straight out in Apex Legends and saying, no, yeah, these people are this. And people's response of, does it affect gameplay? No. Why is it there? They completely miss the point. That is the point, to show you that these people are just like you. It changes nothing. Guys, just be excellent to each other. That's all you gotta do. And moving on to movie news, set photos from Netflix's The Witcher have been, I guess, leaked, I guess is the word to say. Several of the actors for the show have shared behind the scenes photos, but were careful about exactly how much they actually revealed. It turns out that one actress let her excitement get the better of her because a recent post of her showing off the set was immediately taken down. The actress that is behind the leaked photo is Maya Lesia Naylor, best known for her work in Cloud Atlas and Code Red. Though we still don't know who she's playing, Naylor took to her Instagram a few days ago to confirm that she was currently filming, and unlike the previously mentioned post, that second one is still live on her Instagram. But as far as the leaked photo image, the picture showed off both her alongside another actress from the setup. Many in the Reddit thread that blew up over this were speculating that she would perhaps be portraying a younger Triss or Yennefer. As many pointed out, Naylor looks very similar to who is playing Triss, Anna Schafer, which means they could be sticking to a more brunette Triss. The 8-episode long series is still without a release date, though. We do know that it will be releasing later this year as long as the show doesn't run into any major production issues. With the team already on their second location, it seems that everything is running smoothly thus far, so I foresee probably something later this year is what my guess would be. Second on the movie report, Harley Quinn not expected to be in the Suicide Squad sequel boot. And I'm going to call it a sequel boot because it's a sequel, but kind of a soft reboot too. A report by Forbes revealed some new information about James Gunn's take on the group of DC anti-heroes. According to the report, the movie will feature a new cast of characters and will avoid any direct tie-in to the first movie. Thank God. Harley Quinn is not expected to be involved in any capacity as James Gunn's script is a new approach and rethinking of the property. It's not clear if the new cast of the Suicide Squad refers to the squad itself or the entire movie. Even if Gunn does bring a very different energy and tone to the property, it seems rather impossible to do a Suicide Squad without Amanda Waller involved. Waller is the reason that the squad exists, being the mastermind behind the group, and for the reason of the group of criminals doesn't just run wild. Regardless of Waller, though, Harley being out suggests that every other character from the first Squad movie is out, including Will Smith's Deadshot. This would be the easiest and probably the best way for Gunn to do what is intended and cut out any ties to the first movie, because that left such a terrible taste in so many people's mouths. Even people who were huge fans of Suicide Squad comics thought that movie sucked, because it did. It was garbage. The first film involved a great deal of characters who are famous for being on the squad in the comics, especially in the modern era. However, James Gunn has proven track record of taking rather obscure or just off-the-wall oddball characters from the source material and revitalizing them to the movie adaptations. None of the current Guardians of the Galaxy cast were household names before their cinematic debut and James Gunn's take on their characters, so keep that in mind, because I feel like we could see some really obscure characters become pretty well known if James Gunn can have his way, which it sounds like Warner Brothers is kind of letting him take the reins on this one. So I definitely look forward to seeing what he does with Suicide Squad, and I really look forward to it. And lastly, on the movie report, Rian Johnson and Star Wars. So yesterday, on February 13th, Super Bro Movies indicated that Rian Johnson will no longer be directing the planned Star Wars trilogy that would have been separate from the Skywalker saga. According to the rumor, Johnson has walked away from the franchise. Lucasfilm has not confirmed the rumors, which is interesting considering the company announced the departures of Phil Lord and Chris Miller from Solo, as well as the departure of Colin Trevorrow from Star Wars Episode 9 before the news hit other outlets. Johnson's trilogy was announced before the release of The Last Jedi, which he wrote and directed. It was said to be completely unconnected from the events of the main saga and would feature all new characters in different settings. The Last Jedi was a financial success for Lucasfilm and Disney, making over $1 billion at the box office and dominating sales charts for home video releases, but fan response was mixed, causing some people to trash Johnson in the film on social media over its depiction of Luke Skywalker, killing off characters like Supreme Leader Snoke, and introducing Rose Tico to the canon, which we all know what happened to the actress that played Rose. Won't go into that. But in what is probably the fastest nerd news debunking in nerd history, Rian Johnson almost immediately took to Twitter to confirm he indeed is not stepping down from his Star Wars movie trilogy. So there's that. And it's really interesting to me that people are still trying to get Rian Johnson fired or spread rumors of him stepping down. It's mind-boggling. I don't get it. And I will still personally stand and defend The Last Jedi being a good movie. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi suffered from what I call the Plinkett review effect, and from fanboys building up their own fan theories, which essentially set their bar of expectations to an unreachable level. Every other post leading up to both movies from sites like Screen Rant, which Screen Rant absolutely hates Rian Johnson, or even comicbook.com was just like, fan theory about Luke, fan theory about Rey, Boba Fett will be in the next movie? Question marks? Over and over and over again. And I understand the excitement and being stoked about Star Wars, but damn guys, like, don't set an unobtainable level of expectations that literally no one can reach. Okay? Like, that's probably the overarching problem with the Star Wars fandom now, is it's just people putting their own mind, in the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker married Mara Jade, and they did this, and this character did that, and it's like, guys, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a comic book fan too, but like me, I know there's a difference between like all the different Spider-Mans. I know there's a difference between the Ultimate Universe and other universes. Like there's different universes that tell different stories. That's why like I'm totally okay with having like Captain America be an agent for Hydra. Like I'm okay with there being a female Wolverine or a female Iron Man. Like I don't care. I don't care if they make Iron Man an Oriental person. Like I don't care. Like it's because I know it doesn't change what's already been established in other timelines in comic universes, just like with Star Wars. Just because Rian Johnson does this in the movie, like whenever the movie comes out, it doesn't go and steal and burn all of your expanded universe novels that you hold so dearly. It doesn't do that. Just like with the Ghostbusters movie in 2016, it didn't go and smash your Blu-ray copy of the first Ghostbusters movie. Ugh. Fandoms are just like driving me insane anymore. I don't know what it is, but it's just, man, like, just guys, enjoy stuff. That's all you gotta do. Just enjoy stuff. And while Plinkett reviews are funny, don't hold stock into them and quit regurgitating everything he says. Like I said, while his stuff is funny and he does bring up good points, there's other things where it's subjective, not objective, like points. Like it's his own personal bias. It's his own personal opinion on any movie, really. Not even just Star Wars, but any movie he's done, or even like Half in the Bag. Like there's things on Half in the Bag where I'm like, okay, those are really good points, because they'll lay out like the fundamentals of filmmaking and how movies aren't following specific fundamentals and why it doesn't work with that movie. And then they point that out and you're like, oh yeah, that's a good point. But then there's other thing where there's subjective things, and that's what people focus on, is the subjective things, and they present them as facts. And it's totally okay for you to not like The Last Jedi. It's totally okay. Just like it's totally okay for me to like The Last Jedi. And it's that easy. It's totally okay. Either way. So, this concludes this episode of the Scruffy Looking Nerd Herders podcast, and thank you so much for your continued support. Please, if you like what you heard, like, follow, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. Share this with your friends. If they say, I don't have an Android, I have an iPhone, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Stitcher, Podbean, I'm on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit that like button, subscribe, share it on your socials, spread the word. There's so many ways to listen. But be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SLNH Podcast. Or you can go to slnhpodcast.com. There's links there to pick up some merch. I'll put a link to merch in the description. And thank you so much for your reviews and comments. It really helps me grow the podcast and get better. I recently just had a review from the RokuDepot.com. This person goes through, he listens to an ungodly amount of podcasts. I don't know how anyone has this amount of time, but they do it. But they just gave me a review for my previous episode, but they gave a good rating and said that everything was excellent. They were definitely going to check out some more episodes. So thank you, Roku Depot, for that awesome review. They're doing a lot of podcast reviews for the Star Wars Celebration coming up. So they're doing a lot of Star Wars themed podcasts or podcasts that cover Star Wars stuff. So if you're going to be going to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago in April, definitely go check out the Roku Depot because they're reviewing a bunch of Star Wars podcasts, and you can check out some new Star Wars podcasts, get some more Star Wars news, because there's podcasts that solely focus on Star Wars stuff, whereas that's just a small segment of what I do. One of them you should definitely check out is Starbecue. Those guys are hilarious. They cook delicious sounding food, they drink some delicious sounding beers, and they talk Star Wars. So go check them out. There's a bunch of them, Clashing Sabers, like so many. Go check them out because if you're a huge fan of Star Wars, they have tons of stuff where they go way in depth on characters and movies and the shows, the comics, the books, everything. So I highly recommend go checking those out. But seriously, thank you guys once again for all the reviews and comments. It helps the show grow, it helps me get better. And everyone, this has been Tyler from the Scruffy Looking Nerd Herders podcast. I'm signing off, and may the Force be with you.